Imagine your gut lining as a fortress wall, meticulously designed to keep invaders out. Now, picture tiny breaches, almost imperceptible holes, suddenly appearing in that wall, letting in allergens, rogue microbes, even partially digested food that should never cross that barrier. That, in essence, is what researchers are calling leaky gut. And today we're doing a deep dive into how this fundamental breach in our internal defenses might be, well, profoundly fueling the troubling surge in autoimmune diseases we're seeing globally.
Yeah, and by the end of this deep dive, you'll not only understand the intricate structure of your gut barrier, but also how a specific molecule, zonulin, it sort of acts like a master key, actively pulling apart these protective seals. We'll explore how this permeability can ignite immune chaos, leading the immune system to mistakenly attack our own tissues. And crucially, the surprising and innovative therapies scientists are now exploring to mend these breaches and potentially rebalance immunity.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Our gut often seems like just a simple tube, right? But it's actually this really sophisticated gatekeeper. So how does this gut barrier normally protect us? I mean, from the constant barrage of substances we ingest.
It's definitely far more complex than just a tube. It's truly a marvel of biological engineering. The intestinal lining itself is incredibly thin, just one cell thick, composed of specialized epithelial cells. But what's really critical here are the proteins holding these cells together. They're called tight junctions.
Tight junctions, like super glue between the cells.
Kind of, yeah. Think of them maybe as an intricate zipper system, or perhaps the mortar between bricks is a good analogy. Specific proteins like occludin, that forms the core seal, and then various claudin proteins, these can regulate what gets through or just act as a stronger fence. They literally seal the microscopic spaces between cells. This creates an incredibly selective barrier. It lets essential nutrients pass through, but rigorously blocks pathogens, toxins, and, large food particles from entering the bloodstream.
That's a fascinating level of detail. So it's not just a passive wall. It's a highly controlled, molecularly regulated gate. And this is where zonulin enters the picture. Is that right?
Exactly. And this is where the story gets really interesting. While these tight junctions are designed to be, tight, our bodies actually produce this master key molecule called zonulin. It's a protein, and it has this unique ability to reversibly unzip these seals, increasing the spaces between the cells.
Wait, so our body makes something that makes the gut leaky. Why?
Well, zonulin does have a normal beneficial role, like in regulating fluid movement. But the problem arises when it's released in excess. This can often be triggered by things like certain bacterial toxins or even specific dietary proteins like gluten in people who are susceptible. When there's too much zonulin, it directly and significantly increases gut permeability. It's like zonulin, which usually acts as a highly discerning bouncer, suddenly gets overzealous and just lets everyone and everything through without checking IDs.
Ah, okay. So it's not just a passive failure of the wall. It's an active unzipping process driven by this molecule. And when that happens, when the gut barrier becomes more permeable, what are the downstream consequences? For our immune system, I mean.
Oh, the consequences are profound, really profound. When this controlled unzipping becomes uncontrolled, you get fragments from gut bacteria, incompletely digested food bits, even various environmental toxins seeping directly into the underlying tissues and, crucially, into the bloodstream. This influx basically exposes our immune system, which resides just beneath that gut lining, to substances it wouldn't normally encounter in those amounts or forms.
Right, it's like sounding the alarm constantly.
Exactly. It puts the immune system on high alert, provoking an inflammatory response. And this is where the real trouble starts. In its attempt to neutralize these perceived threats, the immune system can become overstimulated, or even worse, it can mistakenly identify components of our own body tissues as foreign invaders. And that triggers an autoimmune response. It's essentially a case of friendly fire, initiated by that compromised gut barrier.
That sounds like a fundamental shift in how we think about autoimmunity. Not just something happening out of the blue, but potentially starting with the gut. So if this is happening, how does it actually show up in people? What are the clinical observations hinting at this gut immune link?
Clinically, it's quite striking, and it's definitely changing how we diagnose and approach chronic illness. We're observing that patients presenting with early signs, often vague, frustratingly nonspecific signs, that frequently precede a full-blown autoimmune disease diagnosis.
Like what kind of signs?
Things like persistent, really debilitating fatigue, unexplained joint pain, chronic digestive issues, or that pervasive brain fog people talk about. These patients are also often testing positive for specific markers that indicate increased gut permeability.
So it's not just symptoms in the gut, it's these systemic feelings of being unwell. And you can actually measure the gut connection.
Precisely. When we run more advanced blood tests, beyond the standard panels, we might find elevated levels of zonulin itself, or even antibodies that are specifically targeting those tight junction proteins like occludin. That indicates the body's reacting to the breakdown of its own gut lining. We also often see elevated inflammatory markers, signaling that body-wide immune activation. And what's really crucial here is that these signs can appear years, sometimes even a decade, before a clear, diagnosable autoimmune disease fully manifests. That gives us a critical window for potential intervention.
Years before.
Wow.
And that's particularly striking in people who develop conditions like autoimmune thyroid issues, or maybe those who end up with multiple autoimmune problems, right? It seems like a common thread.
Absolutely. Patients diagnosed with conditions like Hashimoto's or Graves' disease, those are autoimmune thyroid conditions or type 1 diabetes, or even systemic lupus, frequently exhibit these elevated markers of gut permeability. There's a rapidly growing interest, and it's backed by some pretty robust research in whether these changes in gut integrity actually precede the clinical onset of the full autoimmune conditions.
So it suggests a possible sequence.
Yeah.
Leaky gut first, then immune confusion, then the disease itself.
That's the hypothesis gaining traction. It truly paints the gut as the canary in the coal mine, giving us an early vital warning that something deeper is amiss systemically.
That's a powerful metaphor.
Yeah.
And it really shifts the focus from just managing symptoms later on to maybe understanding these root causes much earlier. So if the gut is this early warning system, what's new in the science? What breakthroughs are researchers making in really understanding this and maybe addressing the connection?
Yeah, what's truly fascinating here is how much the science has progressed, especially in understanding the gut microbiome's intricate dance with our immune system. Recent studies have really solidified the strong links between dysbiosis, that's essentially an unhealthy, imbalanced gut microbiome, and various autoimmune conditions. We're finding that certain types of bacteria within the gut seem to actively drive inflammation, maybe by producing pro-inflammatory metabolites or directly activating specific immune pathways.
Okay, so bad bugs fuel the fire.
Right. And conversely, beneficial bacteria like those that produce short-chain fatty acids, butyrate is a key one. They play a vital role in helping maintain a calm, balanced immune system. They do this partly by promoting the development of regulatory T cells, or TREGs, which are absolutely essential for immune tolerance, keeping the immune system in check.
And gut permeability, the leakiness, ties directly into that, the overall health and balance of the microbiome.
Yes, absolutely. It's all deeply interconnected. It seems to be a two-way street. The microbiome can influence gut permeability, and permeability can, in turn, influence the microbiome composition and function. For example, one significant study found that people with lupus didn't just have severely disrupted gut flora, but they also had significantly higher zonulin levels and more widespread signs of immune activation. It suggests this kind of vicious cycle.
That makes sense. And are there studies directly targeting permeability?
Yes, and this is really compelling. Studies in animal models, for instance. In models of rheumatoid arthritis, researchers found that directly blocking zonulin actually delayed the onset and reduced the severity of the disease. Now, that's a huge deal because it strongly suggests that gut permeability, and specifically the zonulin mechanism, represents a truly modifiable target for intervention. It shifts our focus from just managing symptoms downstream to potentially altering the very course of these diseases by addressing an upstream mechanism, repairing the wall, so to speak.
That is a massive shift in potential therapeutic strategy.
Which brings us right to interventions. If this is a modifiable target, what's actually working? What are scientists exploring for solutions that go beyond just symptom management?
Well, there are several promising avenues operating on different levels. One that's gaining significant attention is a specific peptide called larazotide. This molecule is specifically designed to block those zonulin receptors. It essentially acts as a molecular plug, preventing zonulin from unzipping the tight junctions.
So it stops the bouncer from letting everyone in.
That's a good way to put it. It has already undergone extensive studies for celiac disease, where we know gut permeability is a major issue, and researchers are now actively looking at its potential for other autoimmune conditions like type 1 diabetes and inflammatory bowel disease. It's a very targeted, drug-like approach aimed right at that zonulin mechanism.
Okay, so almost like a precision repair kit for the gut lining. But beyond these highly targeted drugs, what about leveraging the microbiome itself? You mentioned the balance is key. Excellent point. And that's another crucial avenue, intelligent use of microbial interventions. This includes probiotics, which are beneficial live bacteria. When you consume them in adequate amounts, they can confer a health benefit, partly by colonizing the gut. And then there are symbiotics. These combine the beneficial probiotics with prebiotics.
Prebiotics. Those are food for the good bacteria, right?
Exactly. Non-digestible food components, usually fibers, that selectively stimulate the growth and activity of beneficial bacteria already living in your colon. These kinds of beneficial microbial supplements, probiotics, symbiotics, they appear to reduce inflammation, compete with pathogenic bacteria, and significantly improve overall gut integrity, often by enhancing tight junction function and boosting beneficial immune signals.
So we've got targeted drugs like larazotide, and then ways to support the good microbes.
Yeah.
But let's not forget nature, right? Beyond specific pills or supplements, what about broader environmental influences? Are there fundamental lifestyle-based strategies emerging?
Absolutely. And this is where, the intersection of immunology, microbiology, and ecology becomes truly fascinating. We're seeing compelling evidence that exposure to diverse microbes found in natural environments, things like spending time in green spaces, having pets in childhood, maybe even living on a farm.
Getting your hands dirty, basically.
Yeah, this exposure seems to significantly boost microbial diversity in the gut, especially in children. And this increased diversity, a healthier, more robust microbiome, appears to sort of educate the immune system from a young age. It helps it distinguish friend from foe and reduces its propensity for overreaction later on. This idea, sometimes called the old friends hypothesis or challenging the hygiene hypothesis, suggests our modern, excessively sterile environments might be inadvertently starving our immune systems of the crucial training they need. And that could be contributing to the rise in autoimmune disorders. It's a powerful reminder that our external environment profoundly shapes our internal health.
It's truly a multi-layered picture, isn't it? You've got the molecular level with zonulin unzipping things, the vast ecosystems within our gut, and then how our external world impacts it all.
To sum up our deep dive today, the gut barrier is far more than just a digestive tube. It's really a critical frontline defense for our immune system. When this barrier becomes compromised when it leaks, often due to the overactivity of molecules like zonulin, the immune system can get confused. It can end up mistakenly attacking the body itself. But the powerful takeaway here, I think, is that we're increasingly understanding that healing the gut might also be a remarkably powerful way to calm a hyperactive immune system, potentially preventing or even ameliorating autoimmune conditions.
And that's a truly profound message. It really offers new hope, doesn't it? For both prevention and maybe early intervention in conditions that have long seemed, irreversible.
Definitely. And speaking of shedding light on complex topics, next week we're exploring another hot one. We're diving into the truth about the sun and sunscreens. From the nuances of vitamin D synthesis to debunking some common SPF myths, we'll dig deep into the science you probably won't hear from influencers or, scrolling through social media.
Sounds fascinating. Looking forward to that. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive today.
Yeah.
If you learned something new, maybe share this deep dive with a friend and do leave us a review. What part of this gut immune connection resonated most with you? We're always curious to hear your insights.